Let's begin with the story of Akai Padmashali. Born as Jagadish in a lower middle class family in Bangalore, Akai, as she is known today, had a very rough childhood. As awareness hit, she discovered a more feminine side in herself. As a child, she would doll herself up in her sister's clothes and play with girls, inviting anger from her parents. She was also bullied, abused, and sexually assaulted right from school. After dropping out of her 10th grade, she was forced to get involved in sex work for almost 4 years. There, she was able to find people just like her and empathize with them. They shared amongst themselves their agony, distress, and felt destroyed on realizing how society doesn't have a place for them, leaving them totally excluded. There, among those other transgenders, Akai believed that she had to bring a change in lives of her kind, and so did her fight begin. She battled day in and out for acceptance and social inclusion of transgenders. She joined Sangama, an LGBT rights group, challenging numerous judicial bodies and striving for justice. She was an example to every single transgender around the world, fighting for their place in society. Now, let's look more into the injustice. Transphobia. What exactly is transphobia? Transphobia involves negative attitudes or action towards transgender people. It can include fear, aversion, hatred, violence, anger, prejudices, or discomfort felt or expressed towards people who do not conform to traditional gender identities, and it is this transphobia somewhere embedded in the minds of the people either through religious beliefs, traditional gender norms, or misinformation that has led to the discrimination and marginalization of trans persons. They are also deprived of basic facilities like healthcare, education, employment, and also are isolated just because they are transgenders. In a country like India, conforming to traditional gender roles, identities, and expectations has been deeply instilled in the minds of people over generations. Anything which is the other of the normal would therefore be caught up in the web of stigma. That is exactly what is happening to the LGBTQ community in India. According to a census in 2011, there were about 4.8 lakh transgenders in this country. Recent estimates say there are about 50 to 60 lakh transgenders in India, of which many are hesitant to come out due to fear of discrimination from the social systems. The deprivation of access to basic human rights and facilities would haunt anybody, and therefore wouldn't come out and would live in a prison of their own with help to be seeked from absolutely nowhere. They are also entitled to live rest of their lives hiding themselves and not having access to freedom. Around 92% of this number has no access to economical activities, education, and employment. Even the well-educated ones are denied access to grow and progress in their career, leaving them across the streets as vendors or as beggars and even as sex workers. As these people pass by our vehicles begging or selling, what they want from us is not our contempt or pity, but to understand the gravity of their situation and give them equal rights and provide them the same equal stance as everybody deserves in the society. Marginalization of these minority groups can have dire consequences on their mental health as well. Mental health is as important as physical health. Depression, fear, isolation, feelings of hopelessness, suicidal thoughts are some feelings which they often get. It leads to a fall in self-worth and also self-esteem. Even after many protests, moments, and awareness, they face abusive comments from their friends, subordinates, employers, passing by civilians, and most importantly, from their own families. This type of discrimination has been sticking around for a long time. In workplaces, they are teased or harassed by their colleagues, and that takes a toll on their mental health. Even after giving excellent performances, they are often denied promotions and opportunities just because they are transgenders. It is often a very sad sight to see the children who are identified as transgenders at an early age facing harsh treatment and humiliation in school from their teachers and classmates. This leaves a very big scar on their minds for the rest of their lives. Let us now talk about Section 377. Section 377. Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code is in opposition of consensual private sexual acts between adults. This came into force from the year 1862. The penal provision states whoever voluntarily has carnal intercourse against the order of nature with any man, woman, or animal shall be punished with imprisonment for life or with imprisonment for either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to receive a fine. On 6th September 2018, the court passed Section 377, which allows consensual sexual conduct between adults of the same sex. Although Section 377 has come into place and various legislation formulated to protect the rights of the third gender as they are called, very little has been achieved. In fact, the bill has also caused much unrest and violation of their basic fundamental right to choose their gender by introducing procedures that requires them to register themselves as a trans man or a trans woman, which if not done would lead to non-recognition of their gender. It is all up to us to remove transphobia and impart equality. We can take various measures to make our workplace a transgender friendly one. Like consider adding a provision that workers may dress in accordance with their gender expression by not denying benefits on the basis of gender identity or expression. Treat trans workers' spouses, domestic partners, children, and stepchildren in accordance with the applicable laws and offer the same benefits, perks, and insurance to them as those offered to the family members of the non-trans workers like any other person. During the early stages of the pandemic, the virus was thought of as a great equalizer. But as appealing and great as that thought sounds, it is not the reality. The pandemic has in fact brought within social classes and groups greater gaps than before, especially affecting the transgenders. Transgenders are now walking around without any source of income. The community, which earlier used to make their living through public dependent errands like begging and selling as vendors, cannot earn anymore. Hence, the government can step up and provide this community with financial aid, free food and water supply, and arrange for proper housing facilities. Transgenders often live in crowded, unhygienic places which are likely to be COVID transmission centers, thus exposing them to higher risks of being infected with the virus. Government must take steps to provide free education and employment opportunities to this community. Many upskilling activities and more access to virtual and online modes of education work can also be made available for them. This lockdown is a great opportunity to sensitize children towards the minority groups and encourage them to see them as equals and treat them with respect through online classes. Children are more likely to learn empathy over socially conditioned adults. The transgender community deserves the same respect just like any of us. They too are citizens of the country and they too have basic rights. It is really insensitive of us to look at them in a different way because of their sexual orientation. Just like Akai, these other transgenders have huge potential to grow and reach great heights. But what stops them? What lands them on the streets begging? What makes them end up being sex workers? It is none other than us. So let us all stand together, abolish transphobia, and make this world a happier, a safer, and an equal place for everybody.